morning. It's Tuesday, the 28th of March. It's about 6:10 in the morning, and I'm going to Minsk this morning on this train, electricity train here. Let's see if I can show it to you. There she is. And here, this one over here, if I can show it. I don't know, this is a very small thing I can't see. Well, anyway, that one's going to Brest. You know, and I was just in Brest, so but there's a lot of news going on. I hope I can cover a lot of this for later on a little bit today, you know. But I don't want to stand out here for too long. This is very windy and blustery, and we had 14 degrees a few days ago, you know, almost ready to wear t-shirts, and now we have snow again. So it's quite bad now. Very strange. So we had the winter was gone and now it's back. Okay, well, I'll talk with you a little bit later. I'm back. Well, it's still the 28th of March. I'm in a building center in Minsk right now. Actually, I'm not looking at tiles, although it looks like I am. No, it's some big building center. I coincidentally just got a mirror today delivered for our bathroom, kind of similar to some of these here. Anyway, lots of news, like I said this morning. And we got a lot of snow out there, but that's not the news I'm talking about. We have there was a proposal by Russia, and I think jointly with China and with other countries that are not part of the Security Council, and they wanted to, well, Russia was proposing an investigation of the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipeline explosions. But all those on the Security Council, at least a lot of them, that are obviously bought and paid for, they abstained from voting. So I guess what that means is there wasn't enough people to vote for it, I suppose. So isn't that odd, huh? Isn't that odd, huh? To stop the vote, it makes you think that somebody's afraid of something. Wonder how that could be. How could somebody be afraid of something? You know? Unusual. And I wonder what they're afraid of. You know, because it's just an investigation after all. I mean, think about it. Think about it. What's wrong with an investigation? You know? If somebody's not guilty, of course, yeah, investigation should show that they're not guilty. Well, that's just one part of the news. There's a lot more news. I'm just going to look around a little bit here. Provided I have time. I always am pressed for time when I'm in Minsk. But let me look around now, okay? Seeing that the weather is so nasty outside, I'm going to try to stay indoors today. I'll go a little bit outside right now. It's actually pretty cold. Like I say, the weather has changed drastically here. But this is nearby where I'm going to be living. And it's a shopping mall. Took the subway. Could have really walked, maybe a 15-minute walk. But with the nasty weather, Rasputnitsa, that's what they call this stuff we're walking on right here. Well, just what, probably in the last week or so, there was an attack, maybe a couple attacks on U.S. bases. There's 3 bases in Syria, and I believe one contractor was killed. Contractor meaning a private soldier, apparently, probably somebody like a Wagner Group person, or a, what do they call it, a Blackwater operator, a terrorist basically for the United States. That's what they actually are. Contractors for the U.S. are another word for the rest of the world. It's called terrorist. So. They call them contractors, but they don't do any building. No, they don't do any concrete work or carpentry or anything like that, but they call them contractors. Walk around here. I'll go up there. In case you want to get married, in case you want a Swiss watch. You can notice in the Belarusian malls they have a lot of things like, it's like they have zones for jewelry and who knows what. This is like a woman's makeup here, or men's if you're a American, I guess, or European. Yeah, you men can wear makeup apparently. There's this kind of stone here, look at that. We get some kids stores and more jewelry places up there. Yes, so anyway, as you know, apparently the United States blames Iran for this attack on these on their military bases, their illegal military bases in Syria, which they're not invited to be there. But of course you talk about Russia having an illegal occupation in Ukraine when they were provoked by the United States and Ukraine. Syria never provoked the United States. But anyway, they blame it on Iran, these attacks, because it was apparently, at least according to the US, they were Iranian drones. Whether they were or not, who knows? But it makes you wonder if that's the true, then every time an American weapon is used to attack somebody else, does that mean the Americans did it? You know, really. So here's an electronic type store. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even come in here and film, but I don't know. They might think I'm stealing this camera. Coffee machines, televisions, electric scooters here. You know, the usual. Look at, here's a confidence course for kids. Guess you gotta walk over there too. I guess you're strapped on. Yes, they have kids in Belarus too, look. The U.S. probably makes people think that they don't have children here. They have children like everywhere else. Isn't that something? Yeah. I guess maybe that's why the United States has recently said they're going to continue trying to overthrow the government of Lukashenko. It didn't work. What was it? Yeah, last year, 10 months ago, there was a plot, and they found out about it. They found out the plans and who was going to get killed. It was supposed to be Lukashenko and his entire family. They wanted to kill his whole family. That was in May of last year, 2022. And Tikhanovskaya, she is the self-proclaimed leader of Belarus. She stood up against Lukashenko in the election, and according to Lukashenko, he won by 80%. A lot of people disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that she won. She has absolutely no experience, zero. She's never even had a job in the government. I don't know, she might have had other jobs somehow, somewhere, but yet she said she won the election. You know, that everybody voted for somebody that has no experience whatsoever. When people talk about Barack Obama having no experience, he was a senator for 2 years, and that's it. But he actually probably did win the presidency, because he was very popular and a lot of people liked him. Tikhanovskaya, well, she was somewhat popular, maybe about 20%, but then she got 20% of the vote. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I don't really know. I wasn't here at that time. But even if people were protesting against the government here, you know, it's the United States. They have USAID, National Endowment for Democracy. They got the NED, and they got all these agencies working overtime in Belarus to overthrow the government. The plan was, as is well known now, is first to overthrow Belarus and then to overthrow Ukraine. But it didn't work with Belarus, so they overthrew the Ukraine. Anyway, they went on with step 2 before they did step 1. Maybe that's why it's all faltering. I don't know. You know, I'm not privy to their plans in Washington, D.C. Look at that. Some nice glasses. Sunglasses. Who was that guy in the red coat? This is a grocery store. Don't know if you can tell by this wide-angle lens. And it's called Gippo. I was always mistaken that for rhino in English, but when you start to learn the sounding of the letters, it's not quite that. Yes, but anyway, Tikhanovskaya, she went to the U.S. also. That was like maybe, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 ago, and met with all kinds of people, State Department people. It was, and she met with NED again, and all sorts of people. And then they're asking her, you know, what she wants, and she said she wants Belarus. So the U.S. wants Belarus. So they have a common interest right there. You know, the U.S. wants to control Belarus through Tikhanovskaya, and of course they made that known. The difficulty is that this country here, they have a hard time of letting the people know that there's a plan to do that. I don't really know. They're not that great here in I don't know, what do you call it, PR? It's not propaganda. It's just exposing the truth. They're not that good at it here. So, you know. Well, let's go upstairs here. Also concerning Belarus, Borrell, I believe his name is Jungle Joseph Borrell. I guess that's what Alex Christopherou calls him, Jungle Joseph. Anyway, he's threatened Belarus. As you know, Putin has said he's going to put tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, and that is in response to Ukraine accepting and the UK offering depleted uranium. And depleted uranium is a very, very nasty thing, as you know. Stays in the environment for a long time. It is, I guess when the shells make contact with whatever they're shot at, they disperse a dust. And this dust is radioactive, and it stays in the environment for a long time. It poisons the soil, of course poisons the plants, poisons animals, poisons people. And they say that a lot of the worst effects come 7 years later, when you get a lot of cancers and things like that. So that's how they've discovered that in Serbia, because right now that has a huge, it's 4 times the rate of cancer, and that was only 10 months, I believe. I don't know how many months of bombing was that. And it wasn't all depleted uranium, but even with the amount they did use, it is, you know, I think it's 4 times higher, or 4. Anyway, it's a huge amount of people have cancers and things and sicknesses, and lots of birth defects. Absolutely horrendous birth defects, and a terrible way to die, a very painful way to die. A lot of people are dying now from all kinds of cancers and things. So anyway, look at that, a shoe store. They're all over. As a matter of fact, a lot of shoe stores in Belarus. That's actually a good place to get shoes if you ever come over here. And a lot of the shoes that are made here or in the region, to include Poland, by the way, are good quality for a lower price. And I bought some shoes, not very expensive, and I've been wearing them all winter in all this Rasputnitsa, this terrible stuff, to walk through snow mixed with maybe dirt and water, and it hasn't leaked. Now I'm going to go to this place. Really, I tell you what, in this mall, this store is so good. It's a sporting goods store. I'll walk around and show you a little bit here. Well, you know, depleted uranium is it's sort of like a waste product from what am I going to say? From nuclear power plants, and it also affects those who handle the ammunition. They also get sick. So it's going to cause a lot of sickness if they actually use this, and Great Britain is trying to say, oh, that's no problem, it's not very harmful at all. Gosh, some nice t-shirts over there. Look at this. Very expensive, at least for Belarus. What's that, like 20 some dollars for a t-shirt? Whoa! And here's me telling you this place is good. Actually, the prices are normally a little bit more reasonable, but you come to these stores and as you know, you always pay more. Yeah. As I said in an earlier video, and Alex Cristoforo also said, it's the West, you know, they realize that they have lost this conflict, and they've lost those territories in the East at the very minimum, and that's why they're poisoning the soil there. You know, they've lost it, and they think they may as well poison it, you know, for all their Ukrainians that they love so much, you know. That they showed how much they loved the Ukrainians by sending them off to the meat grinder in Bakhmut. You know, very, very nice people. And now they're poisoning the soil, to include poisoning their own soldiers. Well, that's not a big deal, because they're already sending them off to die anyway in the meat grinder, not giving them much of any training. It's nothing to laugh about. And now Ukraine is also telegraphing that they are going to launch an offensive. I guess first starting off with Zaporozhye, and then of course to take the Crimea. Like I've always been saying, they want the Crimea more than anything, which of course they do, and that's probably what they're going to be using as payment to the United States for the help they've been getting, payment, so that the USA can put a NATO base there, which is a US base, because US controls NATO. It doesn't matter who the soldiers are, because the US. I mean, you look at who runs Germany. When the US says jump, Olaf Scholz doesn't even ask how high; he just jumps. And then you got Annalena Baerbock, and then you got Habeck. Nobody would ever thought you'd see such a group of, I don't know if you want to call them corrupt or incompetent. Some people say that Annalena Baerbock is just really dumb. I don't know. But not to be outdone, I guess, who is it? Who was it? Macron and the Prime Minister of Spain, I forgot his name. And then there was some other person from the European Union. They're going to China to visit Xi and tell him how much they love him so much and how much he should love them. And actually, it's probably going to be a lot of threats, you know, as if they can carry out threats to Xi, you know, and tell him how much he needs to go see Zelensky, you know, and apparently Zelensky's trying to get a hold of him. Biden's trying to get a hold of him as well. But Xi is only seeing a few people, apparently. Yeah, oh boy. But they're saying, you got to see Zelensky. So in other words, they're going to rush over to see Xi. But I have even heard rumors, I don't know if this is true, that van der Leyen is going. But I don't know. That might have just been a Russian rumor. In some kind of Telegram channel. You know how the Telegram is. There's always a bunch of BS. Half of it is untrue. You know. You see this plan of the, I suppose you could call it the neocons, the neoliberals, the neo-Nazis. Anyway, they're all teamed together. And it's not any different, really, than the plan that was for the Middle East. If you remember, Wesley Clark exposed the, what was it, 5 countries in 7 years or something like that. Anyway, the U.S. wanted to, you know, well, you have to go back to the Project for a New American Century, which was, I've already explained that. It was, you know, just a plan to get into the Middle East, you know, a catastrophic event against the United States. The U.S. goes to fight a war, and then they get a foot in, you know, or get their feet into some oil-rich country and then control all the other countries around in the area, the Middle East, you know, from there. And this is a similar thing, you know, with Russia. And of course, they started off, was supposed to be Belarus, and that didn't quite work. So then they went to Ukraine. And as you see now, they're working also on Serbia, and they're working on Transnistria. And, you know, there's others. Yeah, so anyhow, it's kind of haphazard, it looks like to me. Oh gosh, look at the shoes. There's some green ones in there. Oh, look at this. Some men's underwear for American woke boys. Yeah. If you also haven't heard, there's the, I guess he's the chief of the Russian Federation Security Council. It's Nikolai Patrushev. And I think he's former KGB or FSB, probably FSB. You know, KGB has been gone for quite a while. It's still the KGB in Belarus, but you know, what's in a name? It's, you know, you kind of think, oh gosh, why don't they change that name? But anyhow, Patrushev, and he is, he's talking up a storm, telling it like it is, and telling it how it really is. It's incredible. Oh boy, somebody running by here. Patrushev, he is saying that the USA is the champion of starting wars. Of course, you know, it's sort of like it's never really 6 months goes by where the U.S. is not starting some kind of a war. And then, of course, they blame everybody else for when the U.S. cooks up a provocation and somebody is forced into defending themselves. Well, at least only the powerful countries. The other countries, they don't dare. They don't dare defend themselves. The only ones that have a right to defend themselves are the UK, Israel, and the United States. Nobody else has a right to defend themselves. I don't even think the Germans or I don't know, maybe the Germans, maybe the French, maybe they have a right to defend themselves. Nobody else really does. You know, it's like the rules are for thee and not for me. You know, they go by a different rule book. And yeah. But remember, like I said, it's just like this plan that Wesley Clark unveiled, and that the U.S. wants to go in and take over all these countries. And as you know, the neocons, they're not happy unless they're taking over some kind of a country at all times. A kid in a candy store. Look at all that candy. More candy than you can shake a stick at. Something else that has just come in is the Pentagon, the U.S. Pentagon, is saying that China spends at least $1 trillion of private funding for their military. At least $1 trillion, and then that doesn't count the government money, which is what's listed, and not the supposed the trillion, and that the U.S. is way behind. And of course, the Pentagon says this because they say that the government has to tax the American people much, much more to give them the money to keep them safe, because Russia's going to come and get them. You know, Russia's going to come and Putin's going to come and do it on his own. You know, and Belarus, they're going to come, and then Iran. Oh gosh, maybe India, maybe China. They're all going to gang up because China's got such a big budget. You know? Jeez, how terrible, huh? So they need a lot more money. They need a lot more money. I don't even know what the budget is of the Pentagon. I would assume it's around $1 trillion already. And I think China is supposed to be far, far less. Because look at China. They got, what, 5,000 aircraft carriers, 50 million fighter planes. And the USA, oh, geez, who knows, you know? And of course, the USA pays a lot more for a fighter plane than China does. So China must have about 5 million airplanes if there's so much money going in. It all comes together. It all makes sense. It must be that way, as you all know. And on top of that, the Pentagon has also secured $115 million, not for a fighter jet, but just to set up an office, an administrative office. An administrative office that is supposed to be talking to venture capitalists to invest more money in the military. And it's not really necessarily as like SpaceX, where Elon Musk, he got a significant portion of Pentagon money, I believe, for the space program of, you know, what he's doing. But that's just I don't know how significant that was, but they want a lot more money. And if you know, that's, if you've read War is a Racket by Smedley Butler, you know that that's already been going on. They're spending, the private sector pays a lot of money, and as a matter of fact, the first thing that goes in normally, since, I don't know, maybe in the 1950s, whenever a country is taken over by the United States, the first thing that goes in is a Coca-Cola plant. Imagine that. Imagine that. But anyhow, so I don't even know why they need an office set up, because they're already doing things like this. Office, I think it's, what is it called? Office of Strategic Planning or something like that. But I remember back in my day in the military when they told us about a Army Hammer, $350 US, and that's back in the 80s. I don't know, with the inflation, who knows what that is now. It was a coffee pot, was $2,200 US. And I think in the Vietnam days, people were talking about a bullet for an M16 was 25 cents. So we're talking, that's back in the late 60s. Makes you really wonder what a bullet for an M16 costs now. Probably about $1.50 or $2 for one bullet, one round. I don't know. It maybe costs a lot more than that. So, and also, as you know, they want to get Putin and arrest him as a war criminal. But Zelensky, not Zelensky, you know, pulling people off the streets. Like I said last time, I maybe didn't understand. I didn't make myself clear, you know. They called out for a pizza, and when the pizza boy comes, they arrest the pizza boy, ship him out, put him in a uniform, and make him go on the front line. They're doing a lot of that stuff. They're going through shopping malls, coffee shops, all sorts of things, and just grabbing young men, you know, particularly young men, but of course they're even getting old men and young boys, and they are putting them in uniform and then sending them to the meat grinder. To Bakhmut, mostly. And apparently they're still shoveling people into Bakhmut. A lost cause? And I think more than 70% of that city is already in Russian control. More than 70%. How much, I don't know. But anyway, there was other news, but I think that's what I'll end with right now. I'm going to be heading out of here maybe in an hour, getting back to Baranovichi from Minsk here, and getting on that bad weather. Yes, but anyway, I don't know, what do I say? I keep saying if the algorithms get you here, you should consider subscribing, but I don't think they're sending my videos to anybody except for my subscribers, so I don't think I get any new people actually watching this unless somebody sends the videos to somebody. Put a like at least anyway. Anyway, so I'll get back with you, and the next time, maybe next week, or actually this week sometime, whenever there's going to be some real exciting news. I have a feeling something's going to happen very soon here. You know, I mean, it's already happening all over the world. You see all these protests. Where isn't there a protest? You know, the Zelensky curse, is it? Assad curse? You know, they got protests in Pakistan, protests in Israel. They've got protests still in Paris, lots of protests. And of course they have them elsewhere too. Who's going to have the biggest protest? I guess that's what the contest is right now. But anyway, that will not be reported. It's not in the news anywhere. Maybe it's mentioned only on the evil countries. If it happens in Belarus, you get 100 people on the street, that's going to be announced. If you get 20,000, matter of fact, as you get 1 million people in Paris, it won't even be shown on television in the United States. So anyway, you already know that, everybody that watches this channel. So until the next time, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you that time. Bye-bye.